Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to using the Metasploit framework. This is the second one in the series. I have to break these up because they get pretty long. Like if I just do them straight and actually explain everything, then you're gonna look at probably almost a 2-hour video, which maybe that's what you guys want. Let me know if you guys would rather me break them up like this, or if you'd rather me go ahead and do like a long 2-hour video and do it that way. Just let me know what you guys think in the comments below. It'll help out a ton with trying to figure out what you guys like, because I've done them both ways. But yeah, so the Hackbox Academy, I like it. Before we get started, guys, go ahead and sub, because we're at 2.6. I want to get to 5K this year so bad. I'm so close. Let me know in the comments if you guys think we'll make it. But anyway, here's the deal. I like Hackbox Academy, but for all intents and purposes, it is a pain in the butt, and I'll show you why. They only allow you to spawn a attack box once. Doesn't sound that bad, right? I think it's once in 24 hours, whatever. Doesn't sound that bad, but the problem is, I mean, maybe you could throw money at it and get another one, but the problem is, like, if I want to do it with the attack box, I literally have a limited amount of time to do it. Like, I can't my internet can't go out. I can't like accidentally close the browser. Like if you make a mistake, I gotta wait 24 hours to make another video. So I could use my own box, but then the problem is I'm using a different operating system than some people, and then they're confused on certain things. I just want to use the same box like TryHackMe allows me to do, so that way I can, the same box I use, the same box you guys use, the same box the next guy uses, so nobody can say this isn't working because of incompatibility or whatever. So just explaining myself a little bit. So today we're covering payloads in Metasploit, okay? So payloads as a whole, most of you know what they are. It's just what you're sending to the machine, to the attack machine. And that can be many things, and you're going to see that here. So we have single payloads and we have stagers. So a single payload is what you see on a lot of like CTFs and stuff. It's where you're seeing basically what's happening is you're sending a full payload to the machine and getting whatever you want, whether it's a reverse shell or whether it's, now I have control, it's part of my botnet, whatever the case is, it's all one. You're just sending a file and that's it. Boom. Right? A stager, so we've covered this before. There's staged and stageless payloads. It's the same thing. They're calling them singles and stagers. So a stager, what it's going to do is it's going to set up like a connection, right? And it's going to set that connection up, and then that connection now allows you to talk to each other. That connection's real lightweight. It's just going to be a reverse shell, and it's going to just let you talk to each other. And the point of this is especially when you get more advanced, some malware, whether it's ransomware, whether it's there's a vulnerability inside the network, whatever that you're trying to take over, some malware or some payloads are extremely big. I mean, you're talking, you could get huge files. Well, those are going to get flagged right away because an external source is trying to just push a huge file to you from HTTPS. That even most generic firewalls are going to be like, yeah, maybe let's check that. Maybe let's see what's going on, right? Let's block this and then let someone look at it. So, and that's not the only reason. There's other reasons to do this as well. But the main reason is because, number one, the files are going to be too big. Number two, if you already have a connection and it's a reverse shell, meaning your machine is talking to me, it's more likely that that's going to be undetected. And the reason it's going to be undetected is because, hey, it came from inside, right? They requested it inside. That's where this connection started. That's what a reverse shell is. It came from inside. It didn't come, I didn't request to talk to you and just get free permission. It came from inside. So that's really the main reason, right? Now, here they're showing staged payloads. So here they're showing the actual stages of the payloads. And you can see a single receive fails with large payloads. So you go ahead and try and send a single payload. It fails because it's too large. Now, in a real situation, would you do this? I probably wouldn't. I would probably already know this before I tried to send an actual payload. The stager receives the middle stager. The middle stager then performs a full download. So what they're saying is, then you set up this connection. It then requests that you download a file. So if you ever do some threat hunting and stuff like that, you'll look for these a lot. What I mean is you'll look for PowerShell commands and things like that that are basically all it is they got this little one-liner that reaches out and downloads a file. That's all it is. Now, why is that important? Because it looks like someone's just trying to download a file from the internet, right? That's pretty common. So that's what it looks like. So it's not as likely to look weird that, hey, someone just tried to push a 200 megabyte file to me and I didn't ask for it, right? It doesn't look as weird. Think of it in terms of, I always try to think of them in terms of like what is a analogy that would make sense to a child, right? Now, if I go up to a kid and the kid says, hey, can I have a picture that you painted for me, right? And I say, sure, and I give him this big picture, he's going to be like, oh, thank you, right? But if I just walk up to the kid and give him a picture out of nowhere, he's going to be like, what the hell is this, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So think of it that way, right? Like, it doesn't make sense that you would just push a huge file to somebody out of nowhere. Like, that wouldn't make sense. Even someone not in IT would be like, this is weird, as opposed to the other way around, as opposed to making it look like you're requesting it. So, all right. So stage payloads, simply put, is an exploitation process. So simply put, it's a process. It's not just, you can't break it down to this is staged, so only staged payloads look like this. Da, da, da. There's tons of them. You'll see here they're already on, this is the numbers they're searching for. That's 550 of them right there. And these are just payloads that that are staged, meaning that Meterpreter has, so that you can push to people. So you can see here, you could search directly for these, and you could search for them, and you could just go through and find the one you want. Now, most people don't do this in this way. They don't actually just show payloads and then look at 1,000 of them and find the one they want. Most of them search for the specific one they want, meaning it'll say, like, I know it's a Windows machine, so right off the bat, I'm going to use the word Windows, because you can see it's going to say Windows at the beginning, right? So that'll eliminate at least most of them. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I got a call that I had to take. So anyway, so we're talking about stage payloads, and you can see here that there's 600. You're not going to search that. You're going to actually go through and search it the way that we're going to show you here. But that's important that you understand Metasploit and how to search, because otherwise you are going to be sitting here looking through 600 different payloads, and there's more than that. That's just a snippet they took. So the Meterpreter payload is a specific type of payload. So you notice here these are all Meterpreter, but there will be some that don't say Meterpreter here. What that means is if you've used Metasploit, you know that you get a Meterpreter shell. You're not going to get a Meterpreter shell if you don't use a Meterpreter payload. That's what they're saying. They're saying it's a DLL injection. Now, here's where I don't agree with them, okay? And I think that this gets sold all the time, and I don't know if Hack the Box or Rapid7 have some sort of agreement. I don't know. But it says here that it's a multifaceted payload that uses DLL injection to ensure connection to the victim's host is stable. That's true. But it's not always stable. But it's true that they do try to make the connection stable. Okay? It's more stable than a regular shell. I'll give them that. Hard to detect by simple checks. I don't agree with that. And persistent across reboots or system changes. Yes, that's true. Leaves no traces on the hard drive, making it very difficult to detect with conventional forensic techniques. So here's what I don't agree with. I think they're selling it, and they're acting like it's not easy to detect because it's not detected with conventional forensics. Which is somewhat true because, yes, it's in the RAM, so like it'll be gone when you restart the hard drive or start the machine, and it's not on the hard drive. So yes, conventional forensics, if you literally just take the machine and try and do the forensics, but it's still found. And what I mean by that is all you have to do is pull the network logs on the machine, and you still are going to see those connections. So it's still extremely easy to detect, especially, here's where people mess up. People that use Metasploit that don't actually know how to use Metasploit well or advanced, you're going to get caught every time. Why? Because you're using defaults. Meaning, everybody knows what port Metasploit uses by default, right? Everybody knows that if you do Metasploit certain payloads they have certain signatures, and you're going to see that here. We're going to cover that. But those are all on, you know, they're all on virus protection EDRs. They're all there. They're all on these machines. There's going to be a very minute amount of people nowadays that don't have some sort of protection on a machine, and these will all be detected. You have to know how to use Metasploit. Now, if you want to see me do more advanced Metasploit, let me know in the comments below. But the reason I keep my stuff like this is because I want to teach people that are trying to get into the industry. I want to teach people that think they know, and that's not a bad thing. Like, I understand, I've been there when I was just a couple years in. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a hacker, I got this. And you keep unfolding the onion, you keep peeling it, and you keep seeing more and more and more and more and more. And I understand that you might think you are good at it, and I'm not saying you're not. But if you've never done it actually in a real environment, in an enterprise environment, you don't know what's going to get detected. And I can promise you these defaults will get detected. They sell it like it's not going to get detected. Like, it's such a great... Metasploit is an amazing tool. But if you don't know what you're doing, Metasploit will get you busted. Okay? Keep that in mind. And the reason I say that is because I get freaking requests every gosh darn day about doing, hey, can you hack this for me? Can you do this for me? Can you teach me how to do this? And it's all illegal. I get very, very, very minimal requests about people saying, hey, I want to progress my career. Can you help me? And when I do, I jump on it. And I can tell you right now, ask the people in my Discord. I've helped so many of them either get jobs, look at the Patreon, gets resume reviews. I do all kinds of stuff for people that want to progress the profession, because that's my goal. And I think comments like this are selling. If you've ever watched the Diaz brothers, they're selling you wolf tickets. They are acting like this is a foolproof plan, and it's not. So just keep that in mind. And I know I went on a little tirade there, but I don't like when people say that, because I do know how easy it actually is to detect. Okay, so you can see, as mentioned above, searching for payloads. So here's where you're searching. So you can see show payloads, boom. And then you can see, look, they took the snippet. So they started at 0, they went up to 561. They're just showing you different payloads. And you can see here, instead of Windows, they show Android. So those would be obviously Android, not Windows. So that's why when you search, you're going to use keywords like that. Now you can see here, we can automate and quickly deliver combined with plugins such as Mimikatz plugin. So if you guys don't know what Mimikatz is, it's pretty, everyone knows what it is. It's a way to look for vulnerabilities once you're on the machine. So it's a post-exploit. And you can see they have a plugin for Metasploit. So that's what they're saying, is you can combine these. So you can have multiple payloads, basically. And that would be, like you said, or like we said, you'd stage it, you'd set up that connection, then run a payload. And then you might want to do something else. You might want to run a Mimikatz now. Okay, that's another payload. You're sending another payload, okay? So as seen above, there's a lot of payloads, but we can also create our own with MSF Venom. We're going to do that later, it says. We're not doing that in this right now, so that's good. And then scrolling through the list, we find containing interpreter payloads for Windows. We've already covered that. Here's where they're showing actually how to search for it. So you can see they're saying grep, interpreter, show payloads. Okay, so what that's going to do, grep, as you know, searches. So they're going to search for interpreter. They found it. And it's going to use show payloads. Okay, and this looks a little backwards, right? Because usually we say run the command on Linux and then grep it. Here, on Metasploit, you do it backwards. You grep first, then run the command. All right, so this gives us a total of 14 results. So they change it, and they grep it with grep interpreter and then grep reverse TCP. So now they're grepping two things. They're searching two commands, and they're saying, okay, let's grep for it. And then now they went from 14 payloads when they were just searching interpreter to now 3. So now they've got what they want. They've limited it down. Now, the only thing to pay attention to once you find it is this number. That number on the left, that's the number you're going to use to say use this payload. Now, you don't have to. You can actually spell it out and say use payload Windows 64 interpreter reverse TCP. But if you just say use 15, it'll give you the same thing. So now you can see they already selected their payload. Boom. They're going to show options. Now, here's the key to this part of the module. Most people know when you say show options what you have to change. If it says required, it needs something. And this doesn't have anything, so it needs something, right? That's pretty common. The port here is automatically SMB, so it's automatically put there. But if they are running SMB on some other port, you have to change it. And then you can see these two are already set for you. The big thing here is when you change the payload, there's usually payload options down here, and you can see exploit target. That's the payload options, right? Now here, there's only one target, but you can see that it will change. So like here, you see show options, and you can see they changed the payload. So the payload's changed, and now you have these 3 extra options. Okay, so when you change the payload, you get different options, and you have to check them. So now you can see, now there's this L host. You have to put your own machine name in there, or whatever machine you want to listen, the listening host, right? Okay, so then using payload. So when you're setting the options, you're going to have R host. That's going to be your target machine, the remote host, right? And that's going to be whoever you're, setting this payload to. The port, again, whatever port you're setting it to. Now, if it's already a like SSH, it will default to SSH 22. But people run SSH on other ports. So like if you need to change the port, you have to change it in here, or else it's not going to work. It's going to default to 22 or whatever the default port is. Now, for the payload port or part, we will need to set the following. So here for the payload, you need to set L host. So that's whatever listening host you want. If you don't do listening host, it will not default, so you won't get anything. And the port, same thing. You want to make sure you have a listener set up with whatever port you want. Now, in Metasploit, whatever port you put here, that's what it's going to listen on. So make sure you put something there, because otherwise it's not going to work, right? So now you can see here they're just telling you use ifconfig to get your own IP. Now, one thing I'll tell you, I like to do this more than when I do an ifconfig, I will actually grab the like ton 0. I'll grab the actual adapter, and I will put that as my L host. Now, you don't have to do this. I do it because then I don't have to worry if I messed up the IP or anything. There's times to use it and times not, but you can use the actual internet adapter rather than the port. Okay. So then you just say run, and boom, this was Eternal Blues. So everyone should have seen this before. This is win. Yep, you do this, you get it, right? So now we have interpreter commands. So once you have the machine, once you have the interpreter shell, you can see it says interpreter here. That's the interpreter shell. And you can see they actually started it here. It says get UID. That's the same as who am I, but get UID is going to tell you, okay, I'm an NT authority system. So I am root on this Windows machine, basically, right? So then you use the help command on interpreter, and you get all these commands. There is a ton. There's some that'll work, some that won't, because it depends on the machine. For instance, hash dump probably won't work unless you know what you're doing. And I'm not going to just give away how to do it, because again, if you guys want to see more advanced, let me know down below, and I'll do a more advanced one. You can see like play a waveform audio file on the target system. Well, if that target system doesn't have a way to play it, right, then it's not going to play it, right? If it's just a Linux command line server with no speaker, nothing, it's not going to play it. So that's why I say some of them will work, some of them won't. Again, record mic, webcam, blah, blah. If you don't have those, it's not going to work, and that's fine. All right, so now interpreter navigation. So this is, once you're in interpreter, you can use Linux commands or Windows commands, and it's nice. I like that. I like that feature because I can take over a Windows box, and if it's older, because now Windows boxes actually have Linux commands, but if it's older, I can just use Linux commands. I like Linux commands better. I think they're more intuitive for me. So now you can see channel 1 has been created. What that means is we're automatically, so this is after they did a shell. So you can see here, they're in the interpreter. They type shell. That drops them down into C users as if they were on the machine just doing a regular shell versus the interpreter shell. So that's important because the interpreter has special commands like play, like hash dump. If you did those on just a regular shell, it doesn't recognize that. It's going to say, what the heck? I don't know what that is. And that's also going to look very weird to somebody looking at the logs going, what the heck? They did a hash dump on PowerShell? And then they're probably going to say, okay, somebody's using an interpreter and they messed up and they did it. And so that'd be pretty easy, right? So you can see here, now who am I works because they're in the shell, where before they had to change it to get UID. So now here's the payload types, and you can see, we've got Windows, 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 and these are just some of them, right? These are the most common payloads for Windows machines and their respective descriptions. So you'll see, you'll get a description of it. that's pretty common. So now we're in the machine. The question we have is exploit the Apache Druid service and find the flag. Okay, so first things first, we've got MSF console started. You can see MSF right there. First thing we're going to do is say search Apache, and we'll just do 2 words, Apache and Druid. Now, you could do, and you can see right there, exploit Linux, Apache, Druid, remote code execution. And it's ranked excellent. So that's another thing they didn't talk about, and they might later. I haven't finished the module. If it says excellent, use that one first. Then go to high. Then go to normal. Because not only will only some of them work, but some of them will break machines if they're not good, right? So what we'll do is we'll say use, and we'll say 0. And you can see it automatically did it. I didn't have to do anything. So that's really nice. So now we'll say show options. And I said option. And you can see, okay, we don't need it. There's no options, but we do need the listening host, okay? And I actually don't know this one, so we'll, oh, it's got it right there, 10.10.14.95. So set L host 10.10.14.95. Okay, and then we should be able to run it because we required all options are set. And we'll actually, you know what, before I run it, we'll say show options to show you that if you look, okay, so here we didn't set the R host, so we missed some options. It's a good thing I didn't run it. It wouldn't have done anything. So set R host, we need to set that. And you can say, these say required, right? But they're still set up, right? Meaning they're already set to default. So port 8888 is what it's going to default listen on. Or it's what it's going to default tell it to use. So it looks like there's no, okay, it doesn't look like there's any specific commands I need to do. So we'll say set our host, and our host is 10.129. I typed 128.203.52. Now this one is an interesting one because if you scroll up, you can see you have like target URI path. That's just the root directory. I don't know because Apache is a web server, so that might change. What if you're trying to run this on a directory that's 5 directories deep, right? I don't know on this one because we didn't do an actual nmap scan or anything because it's telling us what we need to do. So we'll go ahead and run it and see if we get anything. And you can see it started reverse target is vulnerable. So it checked it first. So that's important. If you ever have one that says it can check first, try it because it will check first, obviously. And look, Meterpreter session 1 open. So now this happens all the time. And I actually get a lot more questions on this than I expect. And the only reason I say that, not that anyone's dumb or anything like that, is sometimes I get this because to me, it just made sense. It just did it because I worked on a lot of servers that did this when I was younger. And what it is it had nothing. Did you see how it had nothing and it was just sitting there? Sometimes people just sit there and they say it doesn't do anything. Well, sometimes it gets where it looks like it's not doing anything and you have to hit enter and that's fine. It works, right? So now we're on the machine. We've got LS, and if you notice, we are on a different machine. So now we'll say CD. And this one actually is really nice because it actually shows us exactly where we're at. And there's our flag, flag.txt. So we'll say cat flag.txt. And we'll put that in here. Of course, you got to be kidding me. There we go. Okay. Hack the box. And we'll say MSF exploit. I understand why they do this, but I hate it when I can't copy and paste it, which I probably can on here, but it's so small of a flag. I'm not really worried about it. Okay, I hit enter. That worked. Incorrect answer. I put 2 1s. So my 1 key's actually been doing that a lot. There we go. So we got the flag. So that was how easy it can be. The problem is I've explained it and I've said it and I've said it and I've said it. It can also be, you could be caught already and not even know it because there's a lot of changes in the cybersecurity world, and I'm not going to go into super detail about them, but not everybody's going to stop you. And that's not a bad thing. They might be not stopping you on purpose because they want to keep seeing what you're doing. And so you probably got caught already on that, because that is a very loud and noticeable thing if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, so now we're going to cover encoders real quick, and this is just informational, and then we're going to stop episode 2. Okay, so encoders. You guys all know what an encoder is. It changes it. You can see here, this is an MSF payload, and this is an old one because they're using the Shikata. That's not used anymore. You can use it still, but it's not the default. And you can see here, this is what it looks like, right? And then you can see they show here without encoding, this is what it'll look like. And then with encoding, you can see it changes how it looks, okay? And now, a lot of you might say, well, why would I do that, right? And you can see without encoding, with encoding. It's different. Now, why would you do that? Look at the payload. You can't really see it, right? That's the whole point. Now, this would still get detected because encoding doesn't actually change the payload. It's not encryption. It's not changing anything. What it's doing is it's just changing the way it looks. And the reason for that, if you guys watched my last video, we did a URL encoding. So we took a huge PowerShell command and we URL encoded it. And the reason we did that is because guess what? When you go in this browser, it only will take certain things. You can't just put any character you want up here and it'll work. It won't understand it. It'll say, I don't know what's going on. But if you put it in hex like this, every computer reads hex, right? So if a program can read hexadecimal, then let's send it hexadecimal, right? It's the same commands. Everything's the same. We just can't read it. Now, part of it is to obfuscate. Part of it is to hide yourself a little bit. But anybody can take this and go, okay, well, let me just decode this. Any good security person. Now, that's where it gets complicated because now they might encode it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And a computer reads it the same way. A computer says, yeah, I understand that. Boom. And reads it. We can't. So we have to sit there and break it down. So good attackers will change their payloads and go ahead and encode them. Now, you can see here, the nice thing is they said set payload. And then they said, okay, now show encoders. They're asking Meterpreter what encoders are available with this payload, right? And Meterpreter says, boom, here's all of our, you can encode it however you want with these. Well, guess what? So you could use these encoders, and that's cool. So you can see they're using this exploit, and then you can see they're going to take it, show encoders, and then they're going to say, okay, we know we can encode it with these, and then they go ahead and try and create their own payload here. Now, why is this not foolproof? Well, look right here. They use MSF Venom. They create a Windows Meterpreter reverse shell. They put the right L host, the right port, and they use the Shikata, which they're purposely using an outdated encoder. Just know that. But you can see it says polymorphic XOR additive feedback encoder. So it's a great encoder, excellent, right? But they're purposely using, there's two reasons this is getting caught so fast. Number one, if you look here, the one they're using is like the most common Windows Reverse TCP. It's like the most common MSF Venom payload. So it makes sense that every antivirus out there has encoded it with every one of these Meterpreter payloads and been like, this is what it looks like. So yes, security folks, offensive, are smart and they'll encode it. Defensive people aren't idiots. They don't go, oh, you encoded, I have no idea what to do now. They also encode them and say, let's upload them and see what it looks like and then report it. So you can see they named it TeamViewer Install. So it looks legit, right? They named it that. And then you go here and you can see 54 out of 69 people said this is a problem. So they went ahead and reported it as it's malicious. Now you can see here, let's go ahead. They run it through the iterations of the same encoding twice. So you can see they run it through, boom, boom, and they run it through the encoding, and then they run it through again. And you can see they do it again because they actually reach out and encode that file. So they run it through again, and guess what? Now 52. So only 2 people didn't do that. So you can see it gets more complex, right? Now, here's where hackers use this. Okay, so you have MSF Virus Total. Virus Total, if you guys don't know, is one of the most common sites that people will upload malicious files to. And then that way, when you have the malicious file, you can actually upload a signature like a hash or whatever, URL, email, anything, and it will tell you if it's been reported before to them as malicious. Perfect. Well, here's the nice thing. Metasploit has MSF virus. You can say TAC K with your API key. Your API key's whatever your account API key is. So you do have to have an account. And then you say, here's the file, teamviewer.install.exe. And guess what? Now, instead of having to go to the website and do all that, it actually is just going to tell you, look at all these people detected it. True, 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 true. You know, they all detected it. So keep that stuff in mind when you guys are going through this, that you have to know what you're doing or you're going to get caught. Okay. But you can also use this to your advantage, because when you're doing pen tests, you can know how the endpoint detection works. You know that virus total. So if you're doing a pen test and you say, let me try this payload, right? Let me try it. And you run it through virus total and everybody's detected it, you might say, oof, they're probably going to detect it, right? So let's see how we can change it so it doesn't get detected, right? That's the goal. So think like a hacker, don't be an attacker. I just came up with that motto, and I don't know if that's real, if someone's taken that, but trademark that right now because that was dope. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, if you guys want to keep seeing this content, and if you guys want me to do these all in one video. Thanks.